Right, let's get to your first job in order to create your best man speech. And these are things that you need to do actually before you write a thing. You need to, if you like, to assemble all of the information that you're going to need and all of the materials. And to help you along, I've created a worksheet. So literally just jot all of these things down and all of the thoughts and considerations that you might use later on in the process. And there are broadly three things that I'm going to ask you to think about and to consider. The first of those is you need to find out a number of things. So if, for example, you haven't already done so, you need to ask the groom and or the bride, what are they planning in terms of the sequence of speeches and who they want to have speak on the day. It could be that it's going to be a traditional sequence, which would typically be a father of the bride, followed by a groom, and then by you. But it could be the groom and bride. It could be any combination of people speaking and in any sequence. So don't assume that it is going to be a traditional sequence. Ask. You also need to gather information that will be important to you when you're doing all of your thank yous and all of your mentions. So things like, who will officiate the wedding? Who has organized all of the things that will happen on the day? Because you will absolutely need to acknowledge them. You also need to know all of the cast members. So if you don't know these things already, find out. Who are the families? Who are the parents of the bride? Who are the parents of the groom? What about siblings? What about any special relatives or people that the bride or groom would like you to make a fuss about during the day? And sometimes, incidentally, this can even include people who could not be there, maybe because there's been an illness, or sometimes even where there has been a recent death. So just find out from the bride and groom what they have in mind on all of those things, and that's that part done. Now we get to, if you like, the meat of your speech. This is the second part of your preparation. Now, this is where you gather all of the material that you could use as you create stories that capture something that you want to share that day that will reflect well on the bride and the groom. And there are three sources for this. First of all, of course, you have the groom. And incidentally, as relates to the groom, you always want to tell the audience how you know each other. Don't assume that they will know. It could be, of course, that your siblings or maybe your long-term friends, whatever it is, you need to let the audience know. Now, in terms of stories about the groom, what might you use as material? It can be anything that falls under the following categories or more. It could be childhood stories. It could be stories about things that you have done, experiences that you have had together. It could be stories that, if you like, capture the essence of the groom and his qualities. And when you think about the groom's qualities, always go for the positive. Don't look to embarrass the groom in any way, shape, or form. As I said to you before, don't do anything that's in any way crude or indeed anything that would cause anyone in the audience to feel discomfort. Second thing, of course, is that you absolutely need to focus on the bride. I'm going to let you into a secret now, which perhaps isn't much of a secret. While, of course, the groom is terribly important to a wedding, you can't really have a wedding without one. Who is at the focal point of every wedding? It's always going to be the bride. So you need to make a fuss about the bride. And here's the thing. The bride is always going to be beautiful on the day. The bride is always going to be wonderful. Incidentally, that is true on both counts anyway. So when you think about stories about the bride, think about the following as potential sources for capturing that essence. Maybe it could be your first impressions, first things that you learned about the bride, either because you remember this from when you first met her, or you first heard about her, or things that people said to you, or observations that you've made as you've gotten to know the bride, things that really struck a chord with you. And in particular, things that might show the audience her qualities and why it is that the groom is the luckiest man in the universe because he is getting to marry the wonderful bride. And the third category of stories that you need to consider would be the bride and groom as a couple. Any stories that come to mind that really capture why they are so good together. Why is it destiny unfolding, if you like, that they have come together and this is the first day of the rest of their lives together? Anything that comes to mind maybe because you admire something about the couple. And again, you could share that with the audience. All of these can be great sources of material. So I've got lots of different questions down here. Use any and all of these just to pique your thoughts and to come up with stories that you might use on the day. And one more thing, I want you to also, on a third part, think about something that you might share with the audience as a setup to your final toast. It could be a thought. It could be an idea. It could be something that comes to your mind because of the stories that you have shared on the day. Is there a particular thought or idea or theme that maybe could set up a wonderful toast? It could be something that was said to you by one of the bride or the groom's families or friends, just a sentiment maybe that you really liked and that you'd like to share with the audience. It could be a quote that you find meaningful. It could be a story that you heard. It could be any manner of things, but I want you to give some thought to this and write down what you might use as a setup to your final toast when you will wish bon voyage to the couple, but particularly when you will talk about love and joy and celebration and getting the audience to join in on that journey. Once you finish that, put it aside and let's get ready to create your best man's speech.